I've had so much fun creating the podcast thus far, trying to figure out this whole process. As my father used to always tell me, do your thing, get it out there. Don't stop, don't look back. You know what you're here to do. You know what you've been called to do. So now it's up to you to do it and not worry about the rest. And so that's what I did with this podcast. We're back. Yes, I'm a yoga teacher, I'm a meditation teacher, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, all of those good things. But I don't believe that there's just one particular way to achieve wellness. There are many ways. Welcome back, everyone, to Thriving Outside the Box, the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kimberly Grocher. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for joining me once again. And for those of you that this is your first time pressing play on the podcast, again, a very warm welcome to you. So I'm very excited about season 2. And I wanted to start this season the way I start most things, the way I start my day, the way I start any class I'm teaching, whether it's an academic class or a yoga class. And that is by taking a pause and taking a breath. So take a moment and pause, take a nice deep breath in, let it all go, right? One pause, one intentional breath. Sometimes that's all we need to get going. So this season is coming to you in March of 2026, and I am recording this particular episode at the beginning of March 2026. And I'm naming that because that matters. There is so much conflict, uncertainty around the world, nationally, locally, and even personally in our lives, right? So there's a lot of tension, but there's also a lot of community and joy and these glimmers that are not always in plain view, but are definitely there. And so I wanted to name that because as you're listening to these conversations, as you're listening to the solo episodes that will be a part of this season, I do want to acknowledge and put everything in context of the time that we're living in. I don't say that to dwell on it, but it's because this podcast has always been about honesty. And as a social worker, as somebody who loves film and documentaries, this is what's happening. And I think it's really important to document that and be aware of that as we move forward, because whether we think it is or not, it does impact all of our lives and the way we show up. So again, that makes this season of Thriving Outside the Box feel even more necessary, because a lot of times we talk about our own personal obstacles or personal challenges with creating our own path or our own blueprint without necessarily thinking about the context that we're doing it in. So when I wrapped up season 1, I knew I wasn't done, but I also know that it was good to take a pause between seasons, really reflect on what happened or what we talked about in season 1 and what I wanted to do with season 2. So a lot has happened since the first season, globally, of course, but also personally and professionally, continuing to do therapy, doing more executive coaching, doing a lot of work with people, really helping them navigate what it means to build a life and a career that actually fits who you are and not what it should or what somebody else told you it has to look like. This season, I'd like to go a little deeper. I want to talk about what it costs also, what it requires of your body, what it requires of your relationships, what it requires of your sense of self. So the inspiration, of course, but also those other messy parts, that embodied experience of building something on your own terms. I felt like we tapped into it in some of season 1, but I'm hoping we can continue and maybe go a little bit deeper in season 2. So here's what you can expect this season. I have some great guests lined up. They are leaders, they are creatives, they are entrepreneurs who are doing extraordinary work and doing it differently. And sometimes that may not be what you're used to. So I invite you, if you're listening, to do so with an open mind, noticing what resonates with you, noticing what maybe feels uncomfortable for you, but always thinking about curiosity. Like I always say with everything that I do, it's an offering. So if something sounds good for you, it's inspirational, you want to try it, you want to reach out to the guests, do that. If it doesn't work for you, you don't necessarily agree, leave it alone. These are all things that we're sharing. And one of the great things about living outside the box is nothing is a have to. Everything is a what works for me and what do I maybe need to leave alone, or maybe that's for later, somewhere else on the journey. I'll be sharing a little more about the offerings that I have coming up this year, or the different ways to work with me that go beyond the traditional one-to-one therapy session. I'm really excited about what's taking shape, and I invite you along for that. If you're listening to this after 2026, you have kind of an idea of what I do and what I've been doing and how you can work with me if that's of interest to you. You also might notice that things are a little different this season. So half of this season has already been created. It's already ready to go. And the other half, I'll be building as we go along. And I did that intentionally, right? So I might play with the format a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to do a few more solo episodes than I did in the first season, but we'll just see where it goes. So I'm excited to reflect on this season at the end in the final episode. So again, the invitation for the season, don't just listen. Let this land somewhere in your body. Notice what resonates. Notice what makes you uncomfortable. And often that's usually where the good stuff is. If you have a therapist or a coach or even a good friend or a trusted person that you talk to, maybe share those insights with them. Share this with someone that maybe resonates with this topic or the topics that are coming up. You can leave a review. You can send me a message. This podcast has grown because people like you pass it along, and I don't take that for granted. I am so grateful. I am very much a word of mouth, grassroots type of person. And so I love the fact that it's primarily growing that way. I'm excited for it to grow in other ways, but that's always going to be the foundation. So I'm glad you're here. Again, whether you've been with me since episode 1 or this is your very first time pressing play, welcome to season 2 of Thriving Outside the Box. It's time to go.